Well, good morning, guys. I'm doing another white paper here. Excuse my junk here in the background. Um, but I'm working on these large language models. I've got a server built that's sitting here under the desk. I got another desktop over here that I do stuff with, but one of the things that I downloaded here is called LM Studios, and this enables you to download particular models. You know, it's a very sophisticated program. It goes through your computer, and it finds out what it's capable of doing, and then it recommends you models, and you can download them, and you can run them inside this interface. Well, it works really good. It's super good. You know, it's got a beautiful interface. They must have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on this. Probably 5 or 6 developers. Probably took them a year to do this. But it just allows you to run the model. And I've got a model picker and switcher and loads and unloads memory. Well, it's doing basically much better than mine, because mine is just built from an old guy that really don't know much with the help of ChatGPT. But I'm doing a lot of white papers on how I did this and how I did that. And I find it's best when I write a white paper that I go ahead and make a video first, describe what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, and then I can go through and actually write the white paper after that. So the problem that I'm trying to solve here is basically how can I take my large language models and get an interface where I can switch them back and forth and load and unload memory, and they need to have a chat context. You know, the tiny models, you can't load a whole lot of turns of conversation. You know, the tiny llama maybe can hold 2. He can remember what you just said. The larger models, of course, maybe they can remember 10 conversations, or 20. It depends on what kind of model it is, how big they are. A lot depends on your processor and your video RAM and your GPU, your graphics processing unit. But anyway, this local LM Studio is really good. Well, you can't, it's just for you to play with and test the models and use them for your own use. But see, my server is built to not only load and run the models, but I've also got it hooked up to the internet so you can access it remotely. I've got a demo there that people can click on at synthari.org, and they can see how it loads and unloads and tests the models, and it's actually running for free. Eventually, when I get so many users that it starts plugging up my server, well, I'll have to make it a paid server, you know. But you've got good models, ChatGPT and Gemma and Grok, and a whole bunch of big models are out there running on multi-million-dollar servers. Well, this is not trying to compete with those guys at all, because I can't run a 100 billion parameter model about the top end of a consumer GPU is going to be about a 13 to 20 billion parameter model. You can get bigger ones that have been quantized. and they're almost as good. They're 95% as good, and they're a lot faster, and you don't need an enterprise grade server to run these things. But anyway, what this white paper is about is you need some way of this LM Studio, for example. It assumes each model that you load just loads the same conversation that you just had. I just gave it a configuration file for a particular model and said, what do you think about this? And it said, blah, 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 really good stuff. You know, it would depend on what model I had. And then I downloaded and tested another model, and I asked it, you know, tell me a joke. It started telling me a joke about the same context that I'd put into the prior model. See, so it had a conversation history, and it was just pulling stuff from that conversation history. Well, this really wasn't good on testing the model because it already had information in it from the last conversation. And I thought, boy, that thing's really smart. You know, I knew what I was talking about. And then I started looking around, and yeah, I got a conversation, and it's just putting the whole conversation back in. So, there's two things. You can save a conversation like ChatGPT. You know, you can save this conversation. It gives it a name and this and that. And you come back a month from now, I don't know what the time lag is on it. You can go into the same conversation. It'll load up everything that's in that conversation, and you can continue. And then eventually you can delete these conversations. Well, you know, they don't want to give you a whole lot of free memory there, or for $20 a month, whatever it is. You know, if you multiply that times 4 or 5 million users, you know, you got a lot of data being stored that probably never going to be used. So what I need to do for my consumer model is, in my demo thing, it writes all into temporary memory, and if you don't use it in 2 hours, it deletes the file. That's it. So there's no risk of you getting user data in your stuff. It just, if you don't use it, it's a free deal. If you don't work in 2 hours, or you don't continue, well, it just deletes it and it starts all over again. It doesn't have any idea who you are, what you said, or nothing. So on my model, I need to fix that. So I have to have a user chat log, or a chat history, or a request history, or something. Because the guy's working on code, for example, he wants to come back tomorrow. He wants all of whatever code he's got written still there. He didn't want to lose it and start all over again. So I'm going to have to put a verified user, you know, once he pays his money or gets his password or whatever, then he gets a permanent log. So if he wants to come back a week from now, or 2 or 3 days or whatever, and continue, he can just pick that chat and continue and switch another model into it, just like this LM Studios. It's great stuff. You know, I don't know what to tell you about it. It's a lot smarter than me, but I had already done about 90% of this just by the seat of my pants. And so now I'm trying to do this very thing. I have to be able to put a model into a chat, a different model, and it continued the same chat. It's not going to just give you a new context window, new model, new everything. It don't know anything, because you have different reasoning models. You know, you get one that's really good at creative ideas, and you tell it, you know, design me a web page about you know, how to do my fingernails or something, and it gives you a lot of good ideas. And then you switch to a coder and you tell it, make me a web page about these fingernails, you see, and you do it to a researcher, and you tell it to tell me the best way to promote this website. And then you got to and it'll tell you all the ways you need to promote it. And now you got to put it on the internet, so you got a web page designer, and it takes the prompts from the last model and builds you a web page, and so you can feed one model feeds another to another to another. Well, on my server, I have all of these models. I have one model that designs models, or picks what the model is best for. It gives me the sequence. Okay, use tiny llama for humor and this and that, and use Granite 8B, which is a Microsoft, I believe. I don't remember what I've got here. IBM. Yeah, it's a great coder. It's a wonderful tool, but it's no nonsense, and it's not going to give me any joke in it. It's going to give you all the safety features. And so anyway, each of these models will do different things, and so you have to be able to not only just switch models for tasks, but you need to have some way of passing the model's output onto the next one. Well, on my server, I've got that figured out. It writes it into a JSON file, and the next model knows to look in the JSON file. If it's got its name in it, then it's got a task, and it does it, and then it writes it's done and puts that into the file, and then actually calls the next model, and it looks, it sees its name, and oh yeah, it draws you a picture of it, and R4 or 5 or 10 or however many you told it, and then the next model's a webmaster, and he looked all beautiful pictures, and he puts them here and there and the other thing, and then generates you HTML, a homemade page for the internet, and your final model goes through and makes sure all the spelling's right, and the links are going to work, and it uses JavaScript, or it uses style sheets or whatever. So you may have 4 or 5 models working on a project, and you have to have some way of passing these models on. Well, I figured out a command log that each model reads every time it boots and looks for its name, and if it don't see anything, it just goes ahead and tells you a joke or whatever you ask it. But if it loads up and it sees its name there to generate an image, or check the code or something like that, well, then that's what it does. So this LM Studios is great because it loads each model into the same chat. So you can think about it a while and figure out which model you want to load first, and tell it to do this, and then tell the next one to do that, and tell the next one to do that, and it'll all do it. It's all great. It's wonderful. But it's only on your local server. It's just a model runner. It's not a standalone suite. But I didn't have this all figured out whenever I built my server, so I built it kind of crudely. It works good, it's fast. It gives good prompts and outputs, and loads one model to another, and you get a final product. It just click a button and burp, 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 and you can watch the VRAM going up and down, and comes up with an output, and you're done. Of course, it takes human interaction to upload it to the internet, but anyway, so that's what this white paper is about. You got to have 2 ways of doing this, where you have model-specific tasks, finishes it, unloads itself, or just finishes it and you copy it or whatever, or it'll pass it on to the next model. Well, see, this LM Studios won't pass it to the next model. There's probably software out there that would, but at least it's not on this. But I gotta hand it to these guys, this LM Studios. They're pretty smart fellows, man. They download the right stuff, and just a couple clicks, and you're in there and running it. Where it took me weeks to figure out, how much memory is this thing got to use, what kind of temperature is it? Is it going to be verbose? Is it going to be very tight? It's going to be structured. There's a lot of manual tweaking that LM Studios does automatically, or you got sliders. Well, I don't need an infinite number of parameters to be put in there. There's probably only 4 or 5 presets that you would ever use. You know, one very creative and free and outsteps the box, and another one's very strict and tight and only this, and somewhere between 1 and 5 of any one of these parameters. I can just set it in a preset, and it's got a file that it'll just read, and it automatically sets itself. So I don't need a big fancy infinite number of settings. I just call it up as an assistant or a coder or an engineer or, you know, a webmaster or a business management specialist or something like this. It's all pre-encoded. But you have to have 2 ways: either open in a new chat or continue it in the same chat. And you have to have some way of deleting these chats, you know, because after 6 months, you don't care what you said to your Raspberry Pi about turning on the camera. It's already done, it's finished, and you're on to something else. So that's what this white paper is about, is context memory, basically. Not really a memory, it's passing on tasks, kind of a command log file, which is kind of my invention. So I'm going to write a white paper on this. So you basically have 2 things. You know, you want a fresh chat, or you want to start a new one, or you want to load an old conversation, or do you want to delete your thing? Do you want to go back in there and edit and take out all of the stuff where you're talking about UPS driver just ran over my mailbox and it doesn't need to know about that? Do you want to edit that file? Do you want to just completely delete that file? And you'll find, as you're starting to talk to these models and do things, you get an idea about, well, what about this, you know, or, oh gee, this ran over my mailbox, what should I do? Or, you know, my cat's not eating right. It's got nothing to do with programming your little Raspberry Pi or whatever. So you have to be able to edit this context log, and that's what this white paper is about, is you know, not necessarily a persistent memory. I've got a persistent memory where every model not only writes to the chat log, and the chat log is append-only. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But, you know, your few kilobytes, you know, I mean, storing it in the space is not really a consideration. You know, even a huge text file is very small. And so a lot of this stuff I've already got it working. It works fine, but I'm going to improve it here. And now I'm getting so many models. You know, I had 8 and I just added 4 more. I got 12 models now, including 13 counting an image generation model. And I'm getting this drop down picker, you know, it goes all the way to the bottom of the screen, and who knows how many models I'll put up, 100, I don't know. So I got to get some way of loading one file with all of the models and where they are, and give them all a name, you know, Joe, Bill, Jam, or 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever. And then I can use another file to read that file, tells it where everything is at. That way, whenever I add new models, I just have to put it into one file, and it automatically will check that file, tells it where to go. There's the path, and you go and you're done in microseconds. So that's what I'm doing now. I started doing it, 1, 2, 3, 4, and didn't think I'd have many more than that. And well, now all of a sudden, with them unloading clean and loading, I've got 12 models, and the drop down is getting pretty big. So I need some way of trimming this down, because it's only going to get bigger. And that's what this white paper is about, not only how to I'm not inventing anything new here. This is all just technology is what it is, and you use Python, or you use oh man, what's the other one? C++ or programming languages to do all this stuff with. It's the language they're already done. But this white paper is just, here's the problem, blah 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 blah. We're getting too many models. I gotta figure out some way of making this more efficient. So anyway, guys, I'll put this up on Synthari.org. That you can check all my models out there. They add more almost every day. I can't believe it. I started off with just trying to get one. I was tired of Chat GPT wouldn't draw me anything past a 1940 pinup model, and I was tired of that. So that's why I built this whole server. And man, first thing you know, I know a lot about AIs and how they work and how they load, and how concise they are, and when they ramble and when they don't, when they're hallucinating. There's ways around all of that, but I'm trying to build this server for somebody that technically they kind of know their way around, and they're just going to go, what's a Python? It's not a big snake. But anyway, guys, like and subscribe. I'll put this up on YouTube, probably on my Discord channel too. I don't know. This would be the Discord channel is a kind of a chat channel for a particular subject, and mine is about this large language server model I built. So anyway, I don't know what the name of this white paper is even going to be. It's probably something along the line of context window for multiple LLMs. Something like that. We'll see. I'll figure it out as I go. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.